Deep in the shadows, I know it's hard to put one foot in front of the other.
Hi guys, CeeChronicles here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I post fragrance related content on this platform, and if that sounds like something that interests you, please do consider joining us by subscribing. Now, if you're returning, thank you so much for the continued support. Please do check out CeeChronicles Unscripted. The link of that channel is in the description, which is at the top of this page where you find my photograph. Below that, there's going to be two links. One's going to take you to Unscripted, and the second one is going to take you to a PayPal donate link. If at all you want to donate anything towards the purchases of some of the fragrances on this channel. Today is going to be about cherry and almond fragrances. I can't remember who requested this, but if I can find their comment, I'm going to pull it up. I forgot to write it down. Honestly, this is not, me trying to be funny or anything. Somebody came in the comment section and they said, could you do a cherry and almond compilation after I did the coconut one, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we're going to dive straight into number one, and number one is going to be from Paris Corner. Now guys, this cherry color I think is last year's release, but it is inspired by Mancera's Tonka Cola, which is a 2022 composition. If you haven't gotten your hands on this one, maybe you ought to try to get your hands on this one, especially if you love that cherry note in a Coca-Cola backdrop. So you're going to get a prominent Coca-Cola note in this fragrance. Some of you are going to say that mix is kind of cough syrupy, but I kind of appreciate it for what it is. I think maybe because I just love the smell of Coca-Cola, maybe. Okay, so this doesn't outright claim to have almond, but the cherry in here bounces off as almondy. If you know cherry, it does have like a bitter almondy kind of undertone to it. So this is our number one, guys. Cherry collar. I often have to look at them, especially if the names are very identical to what they're cloning, because I don't want to call it Tonka Cola. It's not. Okay, so cherry collar from Paris Corner's EMEA collection is sitting on our number one. A lot of you wanted me to update you on whether this fragrance now lasts longer on maceration or not. Unfortunately, it is one mix that is still pretty much doing about 5 to 6 hours. It's not, it comes across as rich, but it fails to hold its own. Okay, so it's definitely a reapply type of situation, but it is number one on this lineup. Now, the second one is going to be from Fragrance World, and you can see by the way I've hammered this fragrance that I do absolutely like it. Okay, this is frenetic 107.9 from Fragrance World, inspired by BDK's Rouge Smoking. Now, if you love Rouge Smoking, you will know that that is a cherry tone or cherry based type of fragrance. There is going to give you somewhat of a sweet, powdered, candied type of cherry. And this one, I think, does list almond as a separate note. So this does have the almond as well as the cherry amidst an embery backdrop. It's got like a woody tone to it. It's powdery, it's vanilla-y, it's everything nice. It's very nutty. So you've got to love that type of a fragrance, but it does interpret as also a soft DNA. So do not buy this if you're looking for something that's really cherry heavy. It's not going to give you that weight or that heaviness. It's going to interpret as powdery and soft, but you will definitely be in that cherry almondy cloud. It's the second one on the lineup from Fragrance World, frenetic 107.9, inspired by BDK's Rouge Smoking. The next one, I shall warn you guys, is a fragrance that you ought to test, especially if you do not have a very experienced nose. This is from Paris Corner. It's called Double Black, inspired by Kilian's Back to Black. This has got that vintage tone to it. That very vintage tone can come across as dated. It can come across as wet and damp, kind of feels like it's got mildew there, interprets as very vinty, but it's gonna have that cherry almondy boozy wrap up there. It's really gonna feel as though they have an addition of like booze as a note in this fragrance, but it is a sour cherry, I guess. So in as much as it's also got like honey in there, it is that sour cherry and bitter almond that kind of domineer in this to make this one a boozy, tobacco-y type of scent. So absolutely one for cherry lovers, but do make sure that you do have an experienced nose, because this might come across as pretty odd. But I thought to add it here, guys, as the third one on the lineup. Is called Double Black from Pandora Scents, which is a subsidiary of Paris Corner. Now, of course, this video wouldn't be complete, guys, if I didn't add this particular Kayali. Drawing its inspiration, of course, from Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. But what I like about hers, let me try and see if I can get something to open it, because already it's showing me that it's not going to budge. Okay, so I'm a seamstress as well, so we always have things like this on standby. So I'm going to open this little box, right? This I use, you know, from time to time. Would I buy a full bottle? Maybe not, because I think I have enough inspirations for Tom Ford. But the one thing that's outstanding about this particular cherry mix in here is the fact that the cherry in here, as the fragrance macerates, becomes a succulent, juicy, like fleshy kind of cherry. So that is what you expect, guys, from this fragrance. It's got an underlying praline kick there, so do expect as well something that's going to feel, what can I say, maybe creamy, something like that. Okay, whether you pick on the creaminess, I'm not sure, but the cherry in this fragrance, guys, is very, very fleshy and feels very juicy, especially after it's set for a while. So you are going to get that unmistakable likeness to Tom Ford's Lost Cherry, but I think where they kind of split there is in the use of the cherry note in this, the fact that it does come across as kind of photorealistic there. So that is another recommendation for you guys from the house Kayali, and this one is Love First Burning Cherry, number 48, and is the fourth one on the lineup. Now, another one that might come as a surprise. Remember, I said in as much as we do Middle Eastern fragrances here, if it's a cluster of fragrances, like in this case where I bring a host of fragrances, I will mix them up because I need to make up a number that makes sense. You've got to understand. I mean, I'm growing with you guys. I don't have like a gazillion fragrances to choose from. Now, this is a recommendation number 5, okay? Babe Power from Misguided, okay? Yes, this contains a cherry note, in case you didn't know. So in this case, I'm going to say, if you didn't know, now you know, right? Okay, so yeah, there is a cherry note. It's a caramel in here, a vanilla, and loads of fruit. It's going to give you something that's going to come across as though it's, what you call that? Mama liked that when she was growing up, that candy floss. Okay, it's going to have like a candy floss type of undertone there, where you're going to feel like a realistic sugar note, but that sugar note is going to be carrying wafts of fruity cherry with just an underlying floralness. Okay, so this is a recommendation as well. If you do like cherry fragrances, do check out Babe Power. This, unfortunately, from the other 4 that I gave you, because I gave you Tonka, I gave you Cherry Cola from Paris Corner, and then I gave you the Rouge Smoking Clone, and then I gave you the Burning Cherry. The 4 that I gave you first are unisex. This is going to lean more feminine, so guys, just make sure that if you want to try this, test it out first. It does have like that quintessential feminine tone to it. It's a Babe Power from the company Misguided, and it's the 5th one on this lineup. Now, on number 6, guys, is going to be Vice Bomb. If you want a full review of this, I am going to bring it, I think, well, not tomorrow. Maybe I would have brought it by now. I mean, I don't know why I'm even putting myself in a corner, because I do record back to back, and then the editing becomes a story for another day. So I don't know when I'm going to drop it, but the full review of this Vice Bomb is going to be on my second channel. Vice Bomb is from Simone Andrioli, guys, and it says Poetry of Night. Mine is a mini. It's a 7.5 mini. Let me just show you a close-up of the little bottle. But this Vice Bomb is cherry on steroids. Okay, let's see if we can show you that. There's so much written on this, to an extent that you can't. Okay, there it says Vice Bomb, okay, and there it says Simone Andrioli. I just pray for the day I'm able to bring full-size bottles, guys. I mean, it makes life easier. Anyway, I have this on this hand. So I'm going to top. I was about to spray it on the box, only to remember that I did play around with this one before the video. Just going to do one more spray there just to revive it, okay? Now this is your sweet, fruity, boozy, sour cherry, and it's built around a sugar note and some vanilla there. The one thing that is a bit odd about this fragrance is, not odd rather, but the one thing that I discovered about this fragrance while I was testing it is, it does feel like they took a Gentle Fluidity Gold by MFK and then punched it up with like a very alcohol-like cherry, like a cocktail cherry. Like if you asked for a cocktail alcoholic drink that is built around cherry, this is what you're probably going to get. Okay, so yeah, I do expect that sitting on some woods with that prominent sugar note. The fragrance itself is called Vice Bomb. It does last a good while as well. That is what I like about this fragrance. So yes, for the cherry lovers, guys, do check out Vice Bomb. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is a 2023 composition, and it is the 6th one on the lineup. And then the next two, guys, I'm just going to present as a pair. This is Zara's Cherry Smoothie. Mine has darkened because for some reason, like I said, I do have a lot of cherry fragrances in my, well, not a lot, but I just noticed that, no, I remember buying, when I bought this, it wasn't as dark. So this juice, actually, let me spray it here just to see if there's any change there. I think it may have thickened. Yeah, it was a beast initially, even when I got it. Cherry Smoothie draws its inspiration from Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. I'm just going to give you the differences in the cherries there in case you want to know. Okay, from this, you're going to get something that feels like a playful, even juvenile to an extent, kind of cough syrupy type of cherry in this fragrance. There is like a plasticky wrap up to it, which is something that a lot of people slag it for, but it does have that cherry and almond, and that cherry and almond works together with a plum. And I think it is also that it's the tonka in here that rounds everything off to give it kind of like some strength that makes it endure. So if you don't mind that kind of synthetic-y, plasticky to an extent wrap up of this cherry, where it interprets as not succulent, not the real thing, not juicy, but like a synthesized kind of cherry, as though it's been coated by the machine. Of course, all of them, it's not like they get into the factory and they actually pluck cherries in their real form. But I'm just talking about how the interpretation is. Like this one has got like a powdery take to it, which gives this cherry like a plasticky, synthetic weight to it. If you don't mind that, this is a good cherry and almond mix, drawing its inspiration obviously off the Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. Now, as for this particular cherry, let me just spray it in the air, but of course my air is contaminated, guys, because I've been spraying all sorts. So I'm just going to work with my brain, if I have to be honest. I'm just spraying for the sake of, what do you call it? Maybe visual aesthetics? I don't know. Okay. Now, Lost Cherry is going to be your triple dose of cherry. So it's going to be cherry on steroids. I think there's a basic cherry in here, and then there's a sour cherry, and there is what they have called cherry liqueur. Okay. So there is a boozy wrap up to this very cherry because of that cherry liqueur. And that cherry sits on a spicy bed with a prominent bitter almond, right? So that's going to be the differences between the two. But if you are not too particular, the Zara one is going to do. If you're not too particular, the Kayali one is going to do. Okay, so that was our number 7 and 8. Number 9, guys, is going to be Kahila Lux, right? I have raved about this fragrance, but disclaimer, this is not for the inexperienced nose. It lists the most beautiful notes, but it might come across as plain weird. Okay, it gets better with time. It lists dark chocolate, it lists that cherry, it lists some wood, some honey. There is like a gazillion notes in this fragrance basically, but you're gonna get a boozy, sour cherry wrapping up what feels like we're wrapping up that dark chocolate, the spices, and presenting a sweet and sour boozy fragrance. This, I would say, test before you purchase. It draws its inspiration from Kayali's Invite Only, but the Invite Only, the original Invite Only, is 3 times better than this. I'm just cluing you up here. The Invite Only has got like that amplified sourness from the cherry. It also has that amplified bitterness from the cherry. Whereas this, the more it sits, it has a bitterness and a sourness, but not as amplified. And it has that more prominent roundup of that dark chocolate and, of course, the spices. So, yeah, this is another cherry almond recommendation, guys. It's called Kahila from the House Paris Corner. It is sitting on our number 9. On number 10, guys, is a fragrance that maybe you did not expect to see here, Ghost Orb of Night. I would have expected that maybe Deep Night would be the one that had the cherry note, but funny enough, this one has the cherry note. It is built around it's a sweet, nutty, woody. Let me open it. It's a mini, okay? So just gonna be sniffing it off here. It's a sweet, buttery, caramelly, nutty fragrance with a faint cherry note. Okay, but yeah, the cherry note is there, and the bitter almond is there. But for some reason, this one in its dry down, way later in its dry down, kind of shares a likeness with Carolina Herrera's Good Girl. You're gonna get wafts of that in the dry down, but yes, it does have a cherry note there. If that sounds good to you, this is another recommendation, guys. Ghost Orb of Night. Now 2 more and then we're done. 2 more and then we're done. Okay, this has been in my collection for a long time. I'm pretty sure this is about to run out, honestly. Attar collection Halta Night. Okay, this one is a sweet, spicy, cinnamon forward, fragrance there with like a nutty wrap up to it, a boozy cherry. So it's going to be a sour cherry here and a bitter almond. The twist there, what makes it, I think, different from that quintessential lost cherry DNA is it does have like an apple, like a bright apple there that kind of shares the same limelight with the cherry. So do expect a bright red apple, piercing bright red apple amidst that cherry. So it's going to give you a wrap up of a fruity thing, like a sour, boozy, fruity thing, that nutty almondy tone and that cherry, but balancing it with like with that apple, where you cannot then say it is an outright clone of Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. So there's a twist to this fragrance, guys. This is Attar collection Halta Night. It is sitting on number 11 and it's the second from the last. Let me show you the last one, guys. And as for this one, I cannot emphasize enough that if you like your Fève Délicieuse, you go, try buy this one. I'm not sure if Paris Corner is still making it, because I'm not seeing it that much, especially on the South African website. So it could be that maybe even Paris Corner is not making this one, anymore. I don't know. Frenetic Delicious draws its inspiration, guys, from Fève Délicieuse by Deal. It is a sour cherry, but this time sitting on cacao. So if you love your cacao, you're gonna love this, but it's very complex. Another one that you may need to test, it has a milk note separately. But this milk note is going to depend on your nose whether you can smell it or not, because there's a lot of heavy notes that build this fragrance to an extent that maybe you may not get the milk in its distinctness, but maybe you may get it like as wafts of like a creaminess, because I think there is also a sandalwood, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of twists and turns in this. It also has like a very rich caramel and praline, which is something that maybe if it starts off as a difficult fragrance to you, you may end up liking it because of that familiar, caramel, rich caramel, like drippy, rich caramel, as well as a praline. So maybe a fragrance that will lure you in. Mine did lure me in, but otherwise, spraying it like this for the first time, it may come across as, oh my God, what is happening here? It also dries down to a boozy sourness there, but very complex. Maybe the complexity would be the same as this, but without it smelling like this. The complexity will be like this, so you may need to test this. This one has got that gourmand kick. So it's going to be your sour cherry with a gourmand touch there. So it's definitely going to be a like for a lot of people that like very savory kind of fragrances. Okay, so this is the last one on the lineup, Frenetic Delicious from the Emir subsidiary of Paris Corner, and it is number 12 on this list. So that's a wrap, guys. I do hope you enjoyed watching this video. I do know that there's a lot of other almondy cherry fragrances on the market. You can drop them in the comment section. I just had to show you what I have. So instead of just coming here and listing, I just prefer to, show you what I have. The only time I bring you things that I do not have is maybe when I do a compilation list or something like that. So those are the cherry forward fragrances within my collection. You can as well add any of these as long as you were taking note of what I was saying. For instance, that maybe you want to test this one because this one might not come across as outright cherrying enough, but the rest of them, are going to do it for you guys. CeeChronicles is my name. Thank you so much for joining me today. Do turn on post notifications on both my channels. That way you get to be notified anytime I upload a video. Meanwhile, like and share this one, guys. And remember that smelling good is a form of good manners. Cheers.